One of the best ways to make faster progress in the gym is to just make this one tweak to your execution. I made this change about a year ago and it's honestly skyrocketed my progress. I've been able to break through strength plateaus and build size much more easily when I want to, and I'm also avoiding injury risk. And here's the best part. This change takes almost zero effort to implement. Your training sessions won't be longer. Honestly, they probably won't even be harder. You don't need any equipment, specialized supplements. It's just a change to part of your execution. So here's what it is. Now, I do want to preface this. This is primarily a change to increase size, but it will have some carryover to strength. It's also scientifically proven, and I'll link some studies down below so you can check my work. Now, the change I'm talking about, of course, is rep tempo, specifically a 3-1-0-0 rep tempo. So let's break down what that means. Eccentric first number, 3 seconds is the lowering phase where weight is coming down towards the earth. During the eccentric phase, you're resisting gravity, but you're not working against it. So you're not technically, in a physics sense, performing mechanical work, but you are resisting the load coming down due to the force of gravity. Now, slow eccentrics have been proven to stimulate muscle growth or hypertrophy more effectively than non-controlled eccentrics. But there's also another huge benefit, that you get increased time under tension and you also decrease injury risk. The second number is key to decreasing injury risk. And that's 1, which is your pause at the bottom. So when you're doing this pause, you're not just resting with the weight at the bottom of the movement, but you're intentionally focusing on being in the strongest, most stable, solid position, preparing for your work phase to be as explosive as possible. So you've set up your solid base, you're lowering the weight under control. And when you get to the bottom, you'll have a slight pause, roughly 1 second. You can do about half a second if you'd like. During that pause, you're going to be in a very stable position, almost spring-loaded to perform the concentric or the work phase of the movement. And then the last 2 numbers are 0 and 0. Now, realistically, you can't lift the weight in literally 0 time, but the 0 here is to emphasize that your concentric, i.e. the work phase where you are working against gravity, you want to perform this as explosively and powerfully as possible. And you can do so with low injury risk because you took time during the eccentric to place the weight in a favorable position, and you've got stability out of the hole, as they say in powerlifting, or out of the bottom of the movement. And this can be applied to absolutely anything. It can be applied to cable work, dumbbell work, barbell work, absolutely anything. And this tempo is going to reduce injury risk across the board for all movements. Last number here is a 0 again. And this is because when you're working with a 3-1-0-0 tempo, you'll actually want to stop just shy of lockout. This would be, for example, in a barbell squat, not standing all the way up until your knees are locked out. Now, this changes a little bit based on the particular movement that you're doing, but with some movements, when you're at the absolute top of the movement, you actually lose tension in the target muscles. For example, in the squat, if you stand all the way up, that's actually kind of like a rest position. Now, you can use it if you need the rest or you're training for strength or something like that. But if you want to keep absolute tension on the muscle, as well as metabolic stress, that burn feeling that you get, which also contributes to size gain, maximize time under tension for your work set, which will maximize size gain, it may be optimal to stop just shy of lockout and then go straight into the eccentric of your next rep. All right, so here's a visual with the barbell squat. As you can see at the top, not a ton of tension on my quads and glutes when I'm at full lockout, but if I were to stop just shy of lockout, I'm going to maintain that tension on my target muscles throughout the entire movement. And then if we look at the bench press here, you can see slow, controlled eccentric, placing the bar where I want to start my rep from, if you think of starting a rep from the bottom, and then slight pause at the bottom, maintaining stability and explosively pressing upward. One last example here with the incline bench press, and you'll notice I do not have Mr. Larry Wheels as a spotter here, so super important that I'm controlling that eccentric, slight pause at the bottom, then executing the concentric powerfully. All right, so we know this rep tempo is going to be awesome for stimulating growth, but how does it actually decrease injury risk? So we're going to nerd out and go physics for a second. So this is a chart of a certain number of repetitions, and the black line here would be the height of the weight. So this would be at the top of the rep. This could be for any movement, but let's use the squat just for like a visual mental example for you. This would be when you're at the top of the squat. This would be when you're at the bottom of your squat. Now the red line is the force that would be needed to change the direction of that load. So as you come to the bottom of the squat, if you come straight back up, maximum force is going to need to be generated to decelerate that load, which is moving with gravity. So you need to decelerate it and then accelerate it upwards against gravity. Technically, this is all upwards acceleration, but the maximum amount of force would happen, which is going to be passed through your tendons, ligaments, connective tissue, skeletal structure. And these peaks here, if you've ever gone down the rabbit hole of looking at strength training injuries, typically, not always, but typically, when there's like a pec tear or a bicep tear or some sort of muscular or tendon tear, it happens at the bottom of the movement right after the change of direction. If you don't believe me, like go watch some pec tear training videos. Or don't. I hate them. This is typically when those tears happen because the greatest amount of tension is applied through the muscle, yes, but also through the tendons and connective tissue. So this is where the greatest injury risk happens, is at the bottom after that change of direction when your muscles are in the most stretched position. So let's talk about how we fix it with the 3-1-0-0 rep tempo. Now bear with me, this drawing is not perfect, nor am I a physicist, but here's the basic idea. As you're lowering the weight under control, there's going to be a pretty low amount of force required, although some force to resist gravity. And at the bottom, because we don't have this rapid change of direction, this rapid acceleration upward, the force can gradually start to increase as you decelerate the load to that pause at the bottom. And then when you come out of the hole or you start your concentric or your work phase of the movement, more and more force can be applied. And then if you actually look towards the following reps, that force will remain higher. So this will actually result in greater mechanical tension through your muscle tissue, which is what we want for size and for strength training, but there won't be those drastic changes of direction which stress your ligaments, joints, connective tissue. So this is much more safe for tendons and hard tissue, which you don't necessarily want to stress during at least bodybuilding or like size type training, but it'll actually result in greater tension through your muscle tissue, which is very promoting for size and hypertrophy. So this is really the way to get the best of both worlds in terms of injury reduction and greater size gains and greater strength progress, because strength is a result of size, generally speaking. That's it for this one, y'all. Thank you as always for your time and attention. There's 2 little buttons down there. One if you think I did a good job, and there's another one if you want to see some more stuff like this. All right, I'll see you in the next one.